Okay. So Joe and Betty go for a walk. They're working on their script late at night. I love Norma says, "You're right. You would never leave me. I wouldn't let you." And it's true. She won't. And Joe and Betty are working on scripts, and there's a cute little camera thing where you see them through the windows, but he's in one window and she's in a different window because they're not together romantically because of Norma. There's a line about reading people's private cigarette cases that's stolen from Oscar Wilde, who's a very famous writer, and it's just Billy Wilder's a smart guy, so it's cute that he's stealing from Oscar Wilde. Okay, cool. And they go for a walk on the street. Now, one of the things I love this scene where they go for a walk on the street. It's one of the best scenes in the movie. For a couple of reasons. One is that oftentimes when I'm watching a movie, I will be like, that's a set. I know it's a set, but the characters don't know it's a set. Of course they don't. They think it's a real place because it's their world. So, for example, in Rear Window, I can tell Hitchcock built that apartment complex so that he could film this movie. It's a set. It's a set for him. It's a set in a real place. He built it just so he could film it. But the characters don't know it's a set. It's their home. But here, in Sunset Boulevard, something interesting happens, which is the characters go for a walk on a set, and they know it's a set. That's fun. That's a fun little short circuit where it's a set for them and for me. Whereas in Rear Window, it's only a set for me and not the characters. And they go for a walk, and it's just a neat moment that emphasizes the way movies are made. And this is, of course, a movie about making a movie, so it just works out great. So they go for a walk, and she tells Betty's adorable. She tells a cute story about how she wanted to be in, her family was in the pictures, and she wanted to be an actress, and she took acting lessons. But they said she needed to get her nose fixed, so she had surgery on her nose to get a better nose. But then it turned out that they liked her nose, but they didn't like her acting. And she laughs about it. And I love that she laughs about it. That is a crushingly sad story. That's horrible. It's treated like something, she treats it like something not a big deal. But again, like the reference to the Black Dahlia killer, like the girls who were young enough to believe the casting couch agents, like the treatment of Norma Desmond by Hollywood, it emphasizes that Hollywood does terrible things to women. They told her to get a nose job, and then they didn't hire her. She had surgery on her face, and she was a young girl, and she had fucking surgery, and they still didn't want her. And so again, it's just part of a larger pattern of the movie being interested in the way women are treated by Hollywood. But the crucial thing here is Betty's reaction to it. Betty's reaction to her rejection from Hollywood is totally opposite to Norma Desmond's. Norma Desmond retreats into like a fantasy world when Hollywood rejects her, and can imagine no other life for herself than being a young, beautiful stripper in the movie Salome that she's writing. Betty does something else and suggests that there is a different way Norma Desmond could go, or someone like Norma Desmond could go. Obviously, Norma Desmond can only go the direction she's going because she's Norma fucking Desmond. So the crucial thing is that Betty realizes she can still be part of Hollywood working behind the scenes, and so she wants to write movies. That's also what Norma Desmond's doing, although she also expects to be the star. But that you don't have to, that if Hollywood doesn't like your face, you can work behind the cameras, not in front of them. There's other things you can do with your life. The point here is that Betty has a very healthy response to rejection. She doesn't, like Norma Desmond builds her whole life is about like a fantasy world protecting her from rejection. But Betty accepts the rejection, finds something else to do, and she seems like a healthy, happy person. And it's a great, she says, what's wrong with being on the other side of the camera? And that's exactly what Norma Desmond would find deeply wrong. And that's that difference between the two women is extremely dramatic there. But it's really important that both women have been rejected by Hollywood because of their looks. Okay. Cool. Okay. Cool. Then Gillis goes home, and we have the big reveal with Max that was so crazy. First of all, Max is writing all of Norma Desmond's fan mail, which is an amazing detail. He is helping her. She lives in a fantasy world where she thinks she's going to get this movie made, but Max is what we would call her enabler. He helps her live in the fantasy world by propping up her fantasy. He pretends to be all the fans writing her letters. And we get the huge reveal, the total bonkers reveal, that Max, she's had 4 husbands, and Max was her first husband. This is one of those moments I wish we were in class together so we could all scream when he says that, because it's so crazy. Max was Norma Desmond's husband, and he chose to be her servant and help young lovers move into, remember the husband's room? That would have been his old room. So he moves Joe Gillis's bags into what was his old bedroom so this new young dude can have sex with Norma Desmond. And Max, he worships Norma Desmond so much that even though she doesn't want him romantically anymore, he's happy to be her servant. We talked about some cuckold stuff in Gilda. Same thing here. It's again, that scene of Max watching them dance is very cuckoldy, right? It's fascinating, and we talked about that enough with Gilda, so you know what all of that is. But the voyeurism and the whole thing. So that Max, the point is that Max spends his whole life propping up her fantasy life. And this really is the difference between Max and Joe, is that right now, Max and Joe are both propping up her fantasy life, telling her what she wants to hear. And by the way, she rejects reality, right? DeMille tried to tell her, if only it were possible, and she ignored him. But she's got Max and Joe to tell her she's beautiful, to tell her this picture's going to get made, to write fan letters and pretend to be other people so she can live in that fantasy world. But the problem is Joe's involvement with Betty is starting to break that apart, because she suspects he's with Betty, and she finds the script he's working on. Importantly, she has to run to the other room to get her glasses to read them. Okay, and Norma, and so Betty and Norma are these kind of opposite ends of things. And right, Betty dresses very simply and beautifully, and Norma dresses elaborately and crazy. Betty is sweet and simple, and Norma is big and dramatic and leopard print. Again, the costuming really captures that. It's really important to the way the house is shot. She has gates, these metal bars on them, but Billy Wilder catches the way the light moves through the bars to create bars on the ground also, so that the house feels like a cage. And there's an expression, gilded cage, is when you put a bird in a very beautiful golden cage. It's a very beautiful cage, still a cage. The bird would probably rather fly around free. So it's a gilded cage is like a kind of trap. But it looks very pretty and it's very nice. And his relationship with Norma, he's got money and he's got his security, and Norma's fucking cool. But he doesn't have freedom. And Wilder really emphasizes the house as a cage. A worse movie would have the narrator say, "That house felt like a cage," and that's just bad writing. And they don't do that in this movie because it's a good movie, and they just show you the sort of bars on the ground. It's great. There's a crucial detail, too, that I noticed this time around that I didn't notice before. I've seen this movie so many times. Norma Desmond buys a revolver. She has a gun, right? And obviously, I noticed that. That's a major plot point, that she has a gun. But she says very quickly that she stood in front of the mirror, but couldn't do it, meaning couldn't kill herself. It's an amazing moment. Why would Norma Desmond? She said she just bought it. She just got it, and she tried to kill herself, and she couldn't do it. Why did she try to kill herself? Isn't everything going great for Norma Desmond? She's writing this. She thinks she's writing this movie, and she thinks it's going to get made into a real movie. The truth is, why would she kill herself when things are going so well? She thinks she's working with DeMille. She knows this is bullshit. She knows she lives. On some level, she's aware this is a fucking fantasy. And she tried to kill herself to get away from it, and she couldn't do it. But she knows. This is a really important thing about Norma, is she's not simply insane. She knows she's living in a kind of fantasy, but she wants to live in that fantasy. But she's not stupid. She knows that this is a fantasy, but she'd rather live in the fantasy than live in reality. And we're going to talk about the larger implications of that for the audience. Okay, cool. And I think I'll pick that up in the next video.